The story of Noah's Ark is one of the most captivating narratives in the Bible. It reveals God's justice, mercy, and unwavering covenant with humanity. Noah's faith and obedience in the midst of widespread corruption set him apart as the last righteous and obedient soul on earth. His story serves as a timeless lesson on the rewards of steadfast faith, the consequences of sin, and the hope of renewal. If you find inspiration in stories like Noah's Ark and want to explore more profound lessons from the Bible, make sure to subscribe to our channel, Remarkable Bible Stories. By subscribing, you'll never miss an opportunity to deepen your understanding of these timeless narratives and uncover how they resonate with your life today. Let's journey together through the remarkable stories that shape our faith. The world had fallen into a state of profound darkness, a shadow that stretched across the hearts and deeds of humanity. It was as if the very essence of creation groaned under the weight of unbridled wickedness. Every thought, every inclination of the human heart was steeped in evil, a ceaseless tide of corruption that defied the beauty of the Creator's design. The scriptures in Genesis chapter 6 verse 5 tell us, "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time." This was not merely the loss of innocence, but a rebellion so profound that it grieved the heart of the Almighty. In His infinite holiness, God looked upon His creation and saw how far it had strayed from its intended path. The world, which once reflected His glory and love, had become marred by violence, deceit, and a rejection of His divine authority. It was not a fleeting sorrow, but a deep lamentation, a divine heartbreak over the creatures He had fashioned in His image. The grief of the Lord was not born of weakness, but of His perfect love, which mourns the loss of fellowship with His children. The Lord regretted that He had made human beings on the earth, and His heart was deeply troubled, as stated in Genesis chapter 6, verse 6. Yet God's justice is as unyielding as His mercy. While His heart ached for the ruin of humanity, His righteousness could not permit the unchecked reign of sin. The earth, defiled by human hands, could no longer bear the weight of its own corruption. In His perfect wisdom, God resolved to cleanse the earth, to purge it of the evil that had taken root. It was not an act of unrestrained wrath, but of divine justice, a reset to restore the sanctity of creation. The flood was decreed, a judgment as pure as it was devastating, to sweep away the sin and begin anew. This was a sobering reminder of the consequences of rebellion against the Creator, a testament to His holiness that cannot be compromised. Amid this backdrop of despair, one man stood apart, a beacon of hope and righteousness in a sea of depravity. His name was Noah, and he was unlike any other of his generation. The scriptures in Genesis chapter 6 verse 9 tell us, "Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God." In a world that had turned its back on the Creator, Noah turned toward Him, choosing obedience over defiance, faith over folly. His life was a testimony to what it meant to live in harmony with God's will, even when surrounded by darkness. Noah's righteousness was not merely an outward display, but an inward purity of heart. He was a man who sought after God, who listened for His voice amid the chaos, and who trusted in His promises without wavering. It was this steadfast faith that caught the attention of the Lord, who saw in Noah a vessel through which salvation could come. God in His infinite grace, chose Noah to be the guardian of life, the preserver of His creation amidst the impending judgment. The task set before Noah was monumental, a calling that would require unwavering faith and obedience. God revealed His plan to Noah, sharing the blueprint for an ark, a vessel of refuge that would rise above the waters of destruction. This was not merely a physical act of construction, but a spiritual one, as each plank and nail was laid in faith, each step a testament to Noah's trust in the unseen. He obeyed without hesitation, walking in step with the divine will, knowing that salvation was found only in God's provision. Through Noah, God demonstrated that righteousness and faith are never in vain. Even in the darkest times, those who remain faithful to the Lord will find favor in His eyes. Noah's life reminds us that God does not overlook the faithful. He elevates them, entrusting them with His purposes and blessing their obedience. In the story of Noah, we see not only the gravity of sin, but also the redemptive power of faith. A narrative that continues to resonate through the ages as a beacon of hope and a call to righteousness. God spoke with clarity and authority, detailing the plan that would save Noah and his family. "Make yourself an ark of gopher wood," God instructed, laying out every detail with precision. The dimensions were exact: 300 cubits in length, 50 in breadth, and 30 in height. God specified the need for rooms within the ark and commanded it to be coated inside and out with pitch, ensuring its durability against the waters to come. The blueprint was not a mere suggestion. It was a divine design, a sanctuary crafted under the guidance of heaven itself. Noah listened intently, his heart stirred with reverence and resolve. Though the skies were clear and the ground dry, he knew the words of the Almighty were not to be questioned. He began the monumental task with unwavering obedience, gathering the materials, shaping the wood, and constructing the ark as instructed. The sound of hammers and saws echoed across the land, a symphony of faith in action. As the ark took shape, Noah faced scorn and mockery from those who lived in blindness to the warnings of God. His neighbors laughed, jeered, and called him a fool. "Why build a vessel for waters that do not come?" they asked. Yet Noah remained steadfast, his heart anchored in the promises of God. He knew the ark was more than a vessel. It was a testament to God's protective grace and a symbol of the refuge found in obedience. Each plank nailed into place, each seam sealed with pitch, was an act of trust in a God who saves. The ark stood as a beacon of faith amidst a world steeped in wickedness. Its structure, grand and imposing, seemed almost out of place, a stark contrast to the frivolity and sin surrounding it. Yet it carried within it the hope of redemption, a physical manifestation of God's covenant. The ark was not merely a shelter from the coming storm. It was a proclamation of the enduring mercy of God, who desires to save rather than destroy. In the quiet moments, Noah surely marveled at the task before him. What God had asked of him was humanly impossible, yet the ark rose with strength and precision, a testimony to divine provision. He labored on, knowing that the same God who had instructed him would also sustain him. When the ark was complete, another divine command came: the gathering of life. God instructed Noah to bring pairs of every living creature into the ark, male and female of each kind, along with provisions for them all. It was a task that would have overwhelmed any human effort, but once again, the hand of God was evident. From every corner of the earth, the animals came, Lions walked peacefully alongside lambs. Birds of every kind filled the skies, circling before landing near the ark. The great beasts of the field and the small creatures that scurried underfoot arrived in perfect harmony. It was as though creation itself bowed to the command of its maker, moving in obedience to his sovereign will. Noah and his family worked tirelessly, ensuring each creature was placed within the ark according to its kind. They labored together, their unity a reflection of their shared faith in the God who had called them. Each member of the family played a vital role, and their cooperation was a testament to the strength found in trusting God's plan. As the animals settled into their places, there was a profound sense of order amidst what could have been chaos. The ark, filled with the diversity of God's creation, became a microcosm of the world he had formed. It was a reminder of his power to sustain life and his desire to preserve what he had called good. Noah surely paused at times to take in the scene before him. The ark, once an empty shell, now teemed with life, a testimony to the Creator's provision. Every creature that entered was a sign of God's meticulous care, a reminder that not even the smallest sparrow escapes his notice. As the doors of the ark stood open, awaiting the final moment of closure, there was a sense of awe and anticipation. The unity among Noah's family, the harmony among the creatures, and the orderliness of it all pointed to a God who reigns with absolute sovereignty. Even in the face of an impending storm, there was peace within the ark, for it was filled with the presence and promise of God. Noah's heart must have swelled with gratitude and humility as he witnessed God's faithfulness. The task had been immense, the ridicule relentless, but the evidence of God's hand was undeniable. The ark stood ready, a vessel of salvation, filled with life and the assurance of God's unfailing love. The flood waters poured forth from the fountains of the deep, breaking through the earth with a force that testified to the power of divine judgment. Torrents of rain cascaded from the heavens for 40 days and 40 nights, covering the mountains and sweeping away all traces of human corruption. The relentless deluge was not merely an act of destruction, but a solemn cleansing, a purification of a world burdened by sin and rebellion against God. Every corner of creation felt the weight of divine justice as the waters engulfed the earth, silencing the cries of wickedness and washing away the stains of iniquity. Amid this overwhelming display of judgment, the ark floated securely upon the waters, guided by the unseen hand of God. It stood as a beacon of salvation, a vessel of mercy that carried within it the seeds of a renewed creation. Within its sturdy walls, Noah and his family were preserved, their obedience to God's command shielding them from the fate of a corrupt generation. The animals, gathered by divine instruction, found refuge alongside Noah, their presence a testament to God's intent to restore and sustain the earth. The ark's survival amidst the tempest was no accident. It was a deliberate act of grace, a declaration that God's mercy endures even in the midst of judgment. Though the flood waters rose and the heavens wept, the ark stood firm, a sanctuary for the righteous. It bore witness to a covenantal promise that God would not utterly forsake his creation, but would bring forth new life from the chaos. The flood, while a judgment upon sin, also marked the beginning of renewal, a reset for humanity and the earth that had groaned under the weight of its corruption. As the waters began to recede, a quiet transformation unfolded. God, in his infinite wisdom and compassion, remembered Noah and all those sheltered within the ark. His sovereign hand moved to restore the earth, causing the winds to blow and the floodwaters to subside. The waters, which once symbolized the magnitude of divine judgment, now became a canvas upon which God painted the promise of hope. Noah, yearning for a sign of restoration, opened a window in the ark and released a raven. The bird soared over the endless expanse of water, but found no place to rest and returned. Then Noah sent forth a dove, its gentle flight carrying the weight of humanity's hope. Yet the waters had not yet retreated, and the dove too returned, seeking refuge once more in the ark. After 7 days, Noah sent the dove again, and this time it returned with a fresh olive leaf in its beak. The sight of the olive leaf brought tears of gratitude and joy to Noah's eyes, for it was more than a sign of receding waters. It was a symbol of renewal and reconciliation. The olive leaf bore witness to God's unwavering faithfulness, a token that the earth was being restored and life would flourish once more. In the stillness that followed, the ark came to rest upon the mountains of Ararat. The world that awaited outside was transformed, cleansed of the corruption that had once marred its beauty. Noah and his family, stepping out of the ark, were met with the sight of a world reborn. The earth, though scarred by the flood, held the promise of new beginnings, a covenant inscribed not in stone, but in the rhythm of life itself. Through the flood and its aftermath, the message of God's justice and mercy rang clear. He had judged the sinfulness of humanity with righteous authority, yet he had also preserved the faithful, offering a path to salvation. The flood was not merely an end, but a profound renewal, a testament to a God who judges sin, but delights in restoring his creation to its intended purpose. The olive leaf, the ark, and the receding waters all spoke of a divine plan that continues to unfold, reminding humanity that even in judgment, the seeds of grace and hope are sown. Noah's journey culminated in an extraordinary moment of divine mercy and covenantal grace. As he emerged from the ark onto a renewed earth, Noah's first act was one of worship and gratitude. He built an altar to the Lord, offering sacrifices of clean animals and birds as a fragrant offering of thanksgiving. This act was not merely a ritual, it was a profound expression of faith and reverence. The aroma of Noah's sacrifice rose to heaven, and the Lord was pleased. God, moved by Noah's faithfulness, made a profound declaration. Never again would he curse the ground because of humanity, nor destroy all living creatures as he had done through the flood. In a demonstration of his boundless mercy, God established an everlasting covenant with Noah, his descendants, and every living creature. This covenant was not contingent on human perfection, but was rooted in God's unchanging nature and steadfast love. It was a promise of hope for all generations, a divine assurance that despite humanity's propensity for sin, God's mercy would prevail over judgment. To seal this covenant, God set the rainbow in the clouds, an eternal sign of his promise. Whenever rain fell, the rainbow would appear as a reminder of God's faithfulness, a beacon of hope amidst life's storms. Each arc of color testified to a God who does not abandon his creation, even in the face of human frailty. The rainbow, a marvel of divine artistry, spoke not only of mercy but also of God's intention to restore and renew. It stretched across the heavens as a bridge between the divine and the earthly, symbolizing the unbreakable bond between Creator and creation. The sight of the rainbow was a call to remember God's promises, to trust in his goodness, and to rest in the assurance that his covenant would endure for all time. It was a sign that while the earth would face trials, the ultimate purpose of God was to bring redemption and peace. Noah's faith and obedience became a living testament to the rewards of trusting in God's plans. His unwavering trust, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, demonstrated a profound belief in the sovereignty of God. Noah's life was marked by a steadfast commitment to righteousness, even when surrounded by a world consumed by corruption and wickedness. He walked faithfully with God, listening to His voice and following His commands without hesitation. The ark, constructed in obedience to God's detailed instructions, was not merely a vessel of survival, but a symbol of divine provision and protection. Noah's willingness to build it, despite the ridicule of those around him, revealed the depth of his trust. His perseverance in the face of doubt and derision serves as a model for believers, reminding us that faith often requires us to stand apart from the world, relying solely on God's word. In the aftermath of the flood, Noah's steadfast faith was rewarded with God's covenant and the opportunity to participate in the renewal of creation. His story underscores the truth that those who trust in God's plans will not be disappointed. It is a call to believers to examine their own faith journeys, to ask whether they are walking in obedience to God's voice, and to trust that His plans are always for their good. Noah's legacy is one of profound faith, judgment, renewal, and hope. His story reminds us of the seriousness of sin, the necessity of repentance, and the boundless mercy of God. It calls us to reflect on our lives, to consider areas where God is asking for trust and obedience, and to commit ourselves to living righteously in the midst of a chaotic world. The narrative of Noah is not merely an ancient tale, but a timeless message of hope and renewal. It invites us to see ourselves as vessels of God's faith and righteousness, called to shine as beacons of light in the darkness. Just as Noah was chosen to preserve life and carry the promise of God forward, we too are called to be stewards of His grace and carriers of His promises. In reflecting on Noah's story, we are challenged to examine our own lives. Are we listening to God's voice, even when it defies human logic? Are we willing to trust Him fully, even when the path seems uncertain? Are we living in a way that reflects His righteousness and mercy to the world around us? These are the questions that Noah's story poses to each of us. Let us take up the call to action, to trust in God's promises, to walk in obedience, and to share the hope of renewal with others. May we be inspired by Noah's faith to live lives that glorify God and bring light to those around us. And as we look to the rainbow, let it remind us of God's unfailing love and the hope that is found in His promises. Let us, like Noah, be faithful stewards of His covenant, living as vessels of His grace and agents of His renewal in a world in desperate need of hope. If you feel moved by this message and want to explore more stories of faith and divine purpose, subscribe to our channel, Remarkable Bible Stories, to join a community seeking inspiration and deeper understanding of God's Word. And together, let's continue to grow in faith and hope.